Can a relatively affordable compact convertible be genuinely, heart-stoppingly, aspirationally desirable? Audi thinks so, and in the form of this improved second-generation A3 Cabriolet, has brought us a very complete product indeed. All the Audi attributes you're used to, cool design, fantastic build quality, engine efficiency and strong residual values, are matched to sleek, desirable looks and even greater interior sophistication. You can't really ask for much more from a compact cabrio.
Back in 1994, a metallic green Audi Cabriolet was spotted by a paparazzi photographer slotting into a parking space at a fashionable London gym. At the wheel was Princess Diana. The car was her chosen form of private transport. Almost overnight, the idea of a compact, fashionable soft-top Audi became deeply desirable. And it still is. For proof, check out this, the improved version of the brand's second-generation A3 Cabriolet. Much, of course, has changed since the Diana days. That original 90s Cabriolet was replaced just after the turn of the century by an A4-based soft top, which sold until 2009. That model's A5 Cabriolet replacement was desirable but expensive. As a result, many buyers looking for a classy convertible and committed to the Ingolstadt brand switched their attention to the only slightly smaller A3 Cabriolet that the company had first launched in 2008. Now, this was fundamentally a very good car, but Audi's mistake was to base it on the restricted dimensions of the compact A3 hatch, hence the short, stubby shape and the pram-like look when the roof was down. Rivals BMW knew not to do this, basing the Audi's closest rival, their 1 Series convertible, on a coupe platform for a sleeker, more elegant look. So, the Ingolstadt engineers went back to the drawing board, and the result was this far smarter second-generation A3 Cabriolet, a car we first saw in the spring of 2014, and the design clearly based on a very different approach. Crucially, it was spun off the chassis of the A3 Saloon rather than the hatchback, which meant it could be lower, longer, and much more stylish than the previous model. It was, in short, the kind of smart and fashionable soft-top that Diana would have driven today, and it's dominated its segment since launch. Competitors, though, haven't been idle. BMW launched a direct alternative, its 2 Series convertible, in the spring of 2015, and Mercedes followed up in the summer of 2016 with a C-Class Cabriolet model that aims towards the upper reaches of this car's product lineup. Hence the importance of the mid-term improvements visited on the A3 Cabriolet in the autumn of 2016, creating the car that we're going to look at here. It's an update that deserves your attention, given that the usual minor styling enhancements are accompanied by some genuine substance in terms of the changes made. There's a sophisticated new petrol engine, plus we've seen some real advances in media connectivity, and even the option of the fully digital Audi virtual cockpit instrument binnacle from the brand's TT sports car. Would it all be enough, though, for potential buyers in this segment to take a fresh look at what this car has to offer? Well, let's find out. In theory, the first question you should ask when looking at a convertible should relate to how the chassis copes with having the roof chopped off. Now, some don't manage very well, the rear view mirror getting the shakes as soon as you set off down the road and encounter a few bumps. Think of a shoebox and how much less rigid it is once you take the top off, unless, of course, you strengthen the base and the sides. And it's the same with the car, but strengthening adds weight, which equals stodgy handling and high running costs. So compromises are made, and we're back to wobbly rear view mirrors and chassis setups that flex all over the place with the vagaries of the road surface. Compromises, of course, are not the Audi way. Vorsprung durch Technik and all that, but even their engineers had to scratch their heads over this one. Large luxury convertibles with their heavier weight are easier to sort out in this regard, but small drop tops are notoriously difficult to get right. It was fortunate then for Ingolstadt that in originally developing this car, they had access to the Volkswagen Group's high-tech MQB platform that all this conglomerate's modern-era products are based on. Stiffer, lighter and better. This second-generation A3 Cabriolet saw its use in a convertible model for the very first time, so a real test. but one the technology has proved to be very well equipped to meet. Now, we'd be lying if we said that there was no shake or shudder at all with this car over poor road surfaces, but there really isn't very much, especially if at point of purchase you make the right suspension choice between firm, firmer or firmest, or to put it in Audi speak, the dynamic, the sport or S-Line sport suspension setups that your dealer will offer you. Get this wrong and you run the risk of spoiling the costing, luxurious character of this car in pursuit of dynamic attributes it was never really designed to prioritise. The sport setup is lowered by 15mm and the S-Line Sport by a further 10mm. Neither is a very pleasant combination on a poorly surfaced road, so if you're going for a test drive in this car, then make sure to ask the salesperson which setup is fitted to the car you're driving. Now, if they don't know, then you'd probably be better off with someone who understands the product a little better sitting beside you. Our opinion on this issue, for what it's worth, is pretty straightforward. If your budget is restricted, then stick with the standard dynamic suspension setup, and you can even have it on the sportiest S-Line trim models. If, however, there's a bit of room for manoeuvre on price, then it's worth finding the extra £1,000 that your dealer will ask of you for the optional Audi magnetic ride system with its clever magneto-rheological fluid-filled dampers. Now, these enable you to set the ride quality up to suit the road you're on and the mood you're in, rather than having set permanently firm. After all, it's very hard to look cool when your fillings are being shaken loose. Magnetic Ride operates through the functionality of the Audi Drive Select driving dynamic system that's standard on all but the base trim models. It's a kind of setup that you might be getting familiar with by now on premium cars, enabling you at the touch of a button to alter the steering, the throttle and gear change responses to suit either relaxed, performance orientated or efficiency prioritized styles of driving. For us, adding this extra cost suspension element to the equation properly completes the A3 Cabriolet package. Either way, Drive Select operates with a touch of this dash-mounted button prior to your selection between the various self-explanatory settings. Mostly you'll be switching between comfort, dynamic and efficiency, but there's also an auto option if you can't make up your mind, and an individual option that enables you to bespoke some of the settings to your personal preferences once you've spent an hour or so with your head buried in the owner's manual. With all that sorted, you can really start to enjoy this Audi. Now, as we've already suggested, it's not really supposed to be any kind of sports car, but that doesn't mean that once you've got over the slight vagueness of the steering, you can't have some fun in it. Enjoyment of this kind is possible because this car is so good through the corners, thanks to a front end that's endowed with prodigious levels of grip. There is a Quattro four-wheel drive option on top models, but in the dry, we can't see that you'd need it. We might think twice about the S-Tronic twin-clutch auto transmission too, unless we really were urban bound. Firstly, because on the diesel models that many will be looking at, it's the Volkswagen Group's relatively inefficient 6-speed system. And secondly, because the stick shift model is already so good. The pedal placing's perfect and the change action light and direct. As for the convertible issues, well, as you can see, roof down, buffeting for front seat folk isn't much of an issue, and it won't be on the motorway unless you really are venturing up to autobahn speeds. Inevitably, as in all cabrios, it'll be a different question for those sat in the rear. Of course, you can't have anyone sat in the rear if you fit the rather inelegant optional wind deflector, which sits across the back passenger compartment and leaves you with only 2 seats. It's still worth having, though, for serene, unruffled progress, the kind of thing you certainly get when driving with the roof up. As you can see, as with most modern cabriolets, the mechanism is operable on the move at speeds of up to 31 miles an hour. And once the hood is up, and that's the process that takes around 18 seconds, there really isn't very much more road noise than you get in a fixed top A3. Certainly no more than you get roof up in one of those folding metal-topped convertibles. This is all provided that you order your A3 Cabriolet with what the brand calls an acoustic hood. It's an extra cost item on base trim models, but very well worth having, with an extra layer of foam inserted between the hood's 3 fabric layers that improves cabin refinement by 30%. On to engines. Now, many will want to avoid the entry-level unit, a 110 PS 1.6 litre TDI diesel, in favour of the 2 power plants that make up the heart of the range. And the most obvious choice is the one that most buyers will probably make, the 150 PS 2-litre TDI diesel. And sure enough, it's a very impressive engine with eager pulling power, delivering the rest to 62 miles an hour sprint in 8.9 seconds en route to a 139 miles an hour maximum that really ought to be enough for anyone. If we were buying this car though, we'd take the other mainstream option, a 150 PS version of the 1.4-litre TFSI petrol unit with clever COD or cylinder on demand technology. Now that's almost as efficient as the diesel, significantly quieter, especially with the roof down of course, and just as quick, 62 miles an hour from rest, taking 8.9 seconds en route to 138 miles an hour. We're not sure that we'd really want to go much faster than that in this car, but Audi centres are ready and willing to oblige those with a further need for speed. Diesel folk get a pokier 184 PS version of the 2-litre TDI unit, offered only with Quattro 4-wheel drive and S-tronic auto transmission, whilst those preferring petrol have the further option of a new 190 PS 2-litre TFSI variant, which replaces the previous 1.8-litre TFSI unit. Essentially, what the engineers have done with the new generation 2-litre power plant is to further maximise compression efficiency, add in a bit of power, and when it works with the S-tronic auto transmission, take full advantage of the lower first gear ratio that the installation of a 7-speed box allowed them to fit. The result is sparkling performance. With S-tronic transmission fitted, an A3 Cabriolet 2-litre TFSI is capable of 62 miles an hour in just 7.3 seconds en route to 155 miles an hour. The 2-litre TFSI model is the one to have if you're looking for a mainstream petrol-powered A3 Cabriolet with the option of Quattro 4-wheel drive. And it's also worth mentioning that this variant's optional S-tronic auto transmission is also a slicker, more efficient setup than the older 6-speed S-tronic auto box that, as we mentioned earlier, the diesel drivers are required to have. You have to have that S-tronic box if you opt for the ritziest version of this car that you can buy, the potent S3 flagship model, which mates Quattro 4-wheel drive to a 310 PS version of that new 2-litre TFSI turbo engine. A unit that in this guise will be able to power you to 62 miles an hour in just 5.1 seconds en route to 155 miles an hour. So, toupees will need to be very firmly tied down indeed. Sophisticated styling doesn't really date very much, and the look of this second generation A3 Cabriolet really hasn't. It's certainly a much more elegant thing than its pre-2014 first generation predecessor was, and as before is based on a stiff but impressively light MQB platform that plays a major part in allowing this A3 to weigh in at significantly less than its closest rivals. Certainly a classy feeling product. Take the lovely satin metallic finish of this windscreen header rail, part of a whole range of beautiful detailing that carries on around the waistline to this neat rear tonneau cover. But of course, almost any Cabriolet looks good roof down. How will it be top up? Now, to operate the roof, you press this button below the gear stick, which then either retracts or, as in this case, erects the electric hood in around 18 seconds. And that's a process that can also take place at speeds of up to 31 miles an hour. Now, once all this automotive origami has been completed, we think you'll still be proud to place this car in your driveway. The reasons why come down to a whole range of sophisticated little details. Audi's designers have employed virtually every trick in the book to accentuate this Mark II model's longer, wider, lower look. The profile is before marked out by what they call a tornado line that visually presses the car down onto the road. This sharply drawn crease begins at the headlights before extending back across the wings, the doors and the side panels to the tail lamps. A further lower crease just above the sills gives the flanks some shape, flowing between wheel arches that house restarred alloys that are either 16, 17, 18 or, as in this case, 19 inches in size, depending on the trim level you selected. The changes made to this revised model are primarily focused on the front end, where the familiar single-frame grille is now wider and more sharply contoured. The headlamps that flank it are flatter and more distinctive than before, with more modern xenon lighting replacing the old halogen units. Incorporated LED daytime running lights are standard, and as an option you can extend the LED technology into the headlamp beams, or go further still and opt for Audi's clever matrix LED headlamp system that's able to continually react to other road users and ambient conditions. This S-Line variant gets a restyled bumper too. Now move to the back and the sleek, sharp lines continue. A nice touch being the way that the rear section has been sculpted to mirror the shape of the A3 saloon variant this body style is based on. There are restyled tail lamps too. Clusters on this S-Line model feature dual-like LED illumination and flowing dynamic indicators. As for the hood, well, if you're one of those that's tempted to dismiss cloth-top cabrios like this one as being technically inferior to folding metal roof models, then think again. There's plenty of high-tech on offer here, with magnesium used in the roof peak, while the parts that give the hood its shape are fashioned from aluminium. The top itself is made up of 3 layers and a headliner, and on most models is supplied in acoustic form, with a layer of foam inserted that's supposed to reduce cabin noise levels by around 30%. Ultimately, the idea is to offer all the refinement a folding metal roof would provide without the boot space compromises that approach entails. So has Audi managed that? Well, to some extent, yes. There's 320 litres of cargo capacity to play with on a front-driven model like this one, and that's only 50 litres less than you get in a BMW 4 Series convertible from the next class up. True, a rival BMW 2 Series convertible could give you 15 litres more, but only when the roof's up. Roof down, that rival 2 Series would give you just 280 litres. With this Audi, when you fold the soft top, the boot capacity stays just the same. What does affect it, though, is ordering your A3 Cabriolet with Quattro four-wheel drive. Opt for that, and boot capacity falls to 285 litres. Bulkier baby buggies will certainly be quite tough to fit into this rather odd-shaped space, certainly more so than would be the case with a rival Mercedes C-Class Cabriolet, which offers 75 litres more. Still, it is impressive that the capacity you do get has been achieved without deleting a spare wheel. Providing you've gone for a front-driven model, you'll find that here, beneath the boot floor. Quattro variants have to make do with a tyre repair kit. What else? Well, a bag hook is a useful touch. Plus, if your car's been fitted with the optional storage pack, you get this LED light and a useful netted area for small items to the right of the cargo bay. Now, unlike BMW, Audi doesn't make you pay extra for the 50-50 split folding rear bench that allows you to extend the luggage space on offer. You retract the seat backs using these neat cargo sidewall levers, a process that frees up a useful 678 litres of total fresh air, or 645 litres if you've gone for a Quattro model. Of course, whenever you find a compact cabriolet with a reasonably sized boot, there's always the fear that rear seat passengers will be compromised as a result. So is that the case here? Well, yes and no. I mean, it certainly isn't what you call spacious back here, but then no car in this class is. What's undeniable, though, is that basing this second-generation design on a longer wheelbase has freed up a little more space for knees, shoulders and legs. Plus, it also helps that the 2 main seating positions are sculpted into a comfy shape. Now, true, this is still an environment that would be best suited to kids and shopping bags, and, well, we certainly wouldn't want to be trying to lug a heavy child seat, for example, in and out when the roof was up. But that said, these are at least rear seat berths that you wouldn't be embarrassed to point adults to for short journeys. Time, though, to get to the part of this car that Audi does really well, the front of the cabin. The defining feature of the dash remains these 4 air vents, styled to look like miniature jet engines and made up of no fewer than 30 individual parts, including bright metal outer rings that are shaped for perfect grip. The 2 central vents sit above a smarter panel of ventilation controls that now has a piano black finish, plus there's a restyled 3-spoke leather-trimmed steering wheel. It's what you can view through this, though, that represents probably the greatest change in the environment. We're referring to a feature that's been fitted here, the optional Audi Virtual Cockpit. It's a pity you have to pay extra for it, but if you can, you'll get yourself a real cabin talking point. The setup replacing the entire instrument binnacle with a 12.3-inch colour TFT screen that's fully digital and customisable with smart 3D graphics and highly detailed effects. It can be viewed in two ways. The classic display shows you a prominent speedometer, rev counter and gear indicator. Alternatively, the progressive display reduces the size of those items and brings functions like the navigation map or your media settings to the fore. Now, we're going to see many more systems of this kind in future years, but this one really sets the standard that they almost try to reach when it comes to clarity and ease of use. Anything this setup can't tell you will almost certainly be covered by the slimline Mmi Infotainment display that glides out from the top of the dashboard to deal with audio, informational and phone-orientated functions that you can prompt via this chrome-edged rotary controller in front of the gear stick. The retracting screen is now 7 inches in size across the range and now works as standard with the useful Audi smartphone interface that, through Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone connectivity, allows everything you access on your handset to be duplicated onto the slide-out monitor. From here, you'll also be able to access a whole raft of 4G online Wi-Fi options via the clever Audi Connect system that's fitted to all A3 Cabriolets, on a trial basis at least, provided you avoid entry-level trim. The setup's powered by a super-fast LTE module that will give you download speeds of up to 100 megabits per second and can allow you to navigate via Google Earth, Google Street View and Google Maps. Plus, it can link you into Twitter, access Google Online and give you weather, news and travel information as you drive. Once you've tried it, you really won't want to be without it. At extra cost, you can further upgrade yourself to the premium Mmi Navigation Plus with Mmi Touch system we're trying here, with its crisp 3D maps, dynamic route guidance, 10GB jukebox hard drive and DVD player. Plus, with this more advanced setup, the rotary controller comes with a touch-sensitive surface on which commands can be traced by your fingertips. Talking of touch, well, almost everything on which your fingers fall in this cabin feels good. Buttons click nicely, the column stalks feel of high quality. You've got these lovely backlit cup holders in front of the gear stick, and the low-rent plastics you'd find further down in some premium rivals are mostly noticeable by their absence. These optional quilted Napa leather sports seats are lovely too. In fact, our only cabin issues lie with storage space. The glove box is small, particularly when, as here, it's filled with media stuff, and it's not lockable as standard. Plus, there's nowhere to put your sunglasses, and the door bins are rather compact too. We'd make the same comment about the console box between the front seats, though it is a useful place to put your phone thanks to the provision of an aux-in point and twin USB sockets. If you've gone for this car's Audi phone box option, there's even a pad here which charges your handset and boosts its reception. And if you've gone for a variant fitted with the optional storage pack, you get storage nets in the seat backs, plus one in the front passenger footwell. Expect to pay somewhere in the £27,000 to £37,000 bracket for your A3 Cabriolet. Now that's around £5,000 more than you'd be paying for sub-top versions of slightly smaller cars like the Mini Convertible and Volkswagen's Beetle Cabriolet, but around £5,000 less than you need to find for a slightly larger convertible like Audi's own A5 Cabriolet model. It might also be worth pointing out that an A3 Cabriolet costs around the same as Audi's TT Roadster, but that of course is a smaller, sportier car with no back seats and less boot space. Now, the A3 Cabriolet engine options pretty much mirror those of the A3 saloon body style this design's based on. So, as with that car, you don't get the entry-level 1-litre unit you find in an A3 hatch. Now, if you are shopping at the foot of the Cabriolet range, it's easy to simply tick the box for the 1.6-litre TDI diesel version without realising that, thanks to clever cylinder-on-demand technology, the comparably priced 1.4-litre TFSI petrol variant that we've been trying here is nearly as efficient, and of course, it runs on cheaper fuel. Now, another thing we've been trying in this case is Audi's slick S-Tronic dual-clutch auto, a transmission you can pay £1,550 more for with all engines except that base 1.6-litre diesel. Go for a 2-litre TFSI petrol unit with S-Tronic or a 2-litre TDI diesel 150 PS variant with a manual gearbox, and you'll also be offered the chance to pay £1,430 more for Quattro 4-wheel drive, provided you've avoided entry-level trim. Now, at the very top of the range, there are fewer choices to make. Go for the fastest 2-litre TDI 184 PS diesel or the rapid S3 petrol model, and you have to have both S-Tronic and Quattro as part of the package. So, on to the value proposition that A3 Cabriolet pricing represents. Now, part of the reason for this model's success is it doesn't face too much really direct opposition. Soft-top versions of the Mini and the Volkswagen Beetle are really too cramped in the back and in the boot to offer really serious competition. And the market no longer offers open-top versions of family hatchbacks like Volkswagen's Golf, Renault's Megane and Peugeot's 308. It gets better for Audi too when you consider that the car that some are touting as a tough competitor, Mercedes C-Class Cabriolet, actually has a model-for-model cost of around £6,000 to £8,000 more. So that's really more of an A5 Cabriolet rival. That only leaves two similarly sized and comparably priced contenders that really are comparable to this Audi. And one, to be frank, is fairly easy to dismiss. Vauxhall's Cascadia retails for the same sort of money, but it's not as good to drive, it costs more to run, and it'll depreciate much faster. Much more difficult to overlook is BMW's 2 Series convertible. The BMW costs around the same as this car, but it weighs more, which means it's a small but significant distance behind this A3 when it comes to running cost efficiency. You don't get a 4-wheel drive option with the 2 Series either. And finally, a word about the S3 variant at the top of the range. Now, if you're in the market for a hot cabrio like this, at first glance, you might be tempted away from this model, given that a rival BMW M240i convertible costs £2,000 less and offers 30 PS more. Look again, though. The BMW's price advantage disappears if you add in the paddle shift auto transmission that's standard on the Audi. And the S3 is just as quick as an M240i. It costs significantly less to run and includes 4-wheel drive, which means that on a typical British winter's day, the BMW wouldn't see which way an S3 went. Here, though, we're focusing on mainstream A3 Cabriolet models, and if you've decided that one of these is exactly what you want, then you're going to need to know just how generous Audi has been with the standard specification. So let's see. Across the range, buyers now get xenon headlamps with LED daytime running lights, as well as cruise control, auto headlamps and wipers, and a smartphone interface that allows them to connect into the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto systems and access handset functions via the car's centre dash infotainment display. That slimline MMI colour screen remains a significant showroom selling point. Electrically retractable, operable by voice, and the point from which you can make your phone Bluetooth compatible and fiddle with an 8-speaker DAB audio system that's also accessible via controls on the restyled 3-spoke leather-trimmed multifunction steering wheel. Other standard elements of A3 Cabriolet kit, fitted even to entry-level SE models, include restyled 16-inch alloy wheels, air conditioning, split-folding rear seat backs, an alarm, and on front-driven variants, a space-saver spare wheel. The electric folding roof is, of course, a fundamental part of the design, but the rearward visibility issues this creates makes rear parking sensors pretty essential. Now, Audi has, at last, made these standard across the range. Lacking with base SE trim are two features many customers would prefer to have, namely the triple-lined acoustic roof and the Audi Drive Select vehicle dynamic system. You do, though, get these on the plusher sport-trimmed variants, along with larger 17-inch wheels, front sport seats, dual-zone climate control, an Mmi Navigation system and some aluminium highlights. If you are able to go further, then this top S-line spec buys you 18-inch alloys, cloth and leather trim for the upholstery, LED interior lighting, extra cabin storage, stainless steel pedals and a body kit, plus full LED headlamps and taillights. S-Line models get stiffer sport suspension too, but we'd suggest you try before you buy here, unless you habitually keep your chiropractor on speed dial. At no extra cost, S-Line buyers can revert to the standard suspension setup. As for options, well, we always find it a little frustrating on cabriolets to discover that a wind deflector costs extra. If you're going to buy this kind of car, why would you not want that? For us, another optional must-have for cabrio motoring will be heated seats, and if you order those, you can also have a head-level ventilation system that blows a lovely stream of warm air onto your neck on request. That'll be a godsend roof down on a cold morning. Both the wind deflector and the heated front seats can alternatively be ordered as part of a comfort and sound package that also gives you a 13-speaker, 625-watt Bang & Olufsen sound setup. A lesser 9-speaker, 140-watt Audi sound system is available if you're not quite such an audiophile. Upgraded infotainment is a key part of the appeal of this revised A3 Cabriolet, and you can get an awful lot of it by paying extra for the optional technology pack we've been trying as part of this test. Here, the most important inclusion is Audi's sophisticated Mmi Navigation Plus with Mmi Touch system, with its crisp 3D map display, 10GB music hard drive, DVD player and responsive NVIDIA graphics. Further technology pack inclusions run to a touch-sensitive surface for the Mmi rotary controller so that you can trace commands with your fingertips. The Audi phone box system that wirelessly charges your smartphone and improves its reception via the roof antenna. And a 3-year subscription to the thing that, well, really completes the Mmi setup's functionality, namely the Audi Connect connectivity system. Audi Connect is something we really need to tell you a bit more about. Now, even if you don't specify the technology pack I just mentioned, this is a setup you get to try for free for the first 3 months of A3 ownership, provided you avoid entry-level SE trim. It underlines Audi's determination to create in this car class-leading levels of media connectivity, providing an LTE data transmission module that establishes high-speed 4G Internet 3 access and creates in your A3 a Wi-Fi hotspot. Also allows you to navigate with images from Google Earth, access a Google Points of Interest search function with voice control, and use a web radio setup with stations from all around the world. Through the Connect system, you can access special in-car versions of your Facebook and your Twitter pages, and it's also possible to read, write and send text messages and emails. The included online media streaming package gives access to millions of music tracks, and there's also a clever Audi online traffic information system that uses live traffic information to reroute you around jams. Plus, the setup can also deliver parking information, display details on parking lots and parking garages almost anywhere you're likely to go. Truly, this is motoring in the 21st century. If you really want to underline that fact, then if budget permits, you'll want to pay more for the Technology Pack Advanced package that we've been trying in this test car. Here, the existing Technology Pack elements we've just covered are built on by the addition of a further feature that's been freshly added to this A3 Cabriolet model lineup, and it's one that we really think you're going to want: the virtual cockpit. Now, this is a 12.3-inch TFT colour display that completely replaces the instrument vehicle's conventional dials. It's totally configurable, it's very futuristic, and it's probably this model's biggest showroom talking point. The virtual cockpit can also be ordered separately if you want to add it in more affordably. Another area of new optional cleverness with this car lies in what you can do with the headlamps. Now, you can equip them with washers, upgrade them to full all-weather LED status, or add in a high beam assist system that'll auto-dip them at night. What's really different here this time around, though, is that Audi has made available to A3 Cabriolet buyers the cutting-edge Matrix LED headlamps that used to be the exclusive preserve of its boardroom-level luxury models. These incorporate sensors and an inbuilt camera that detects other road users as well as ambient light in built-up areas. The Matrix system then reacts by dipping individual LEDs to prevent dazzle, while still fully illuminating the remainder of the road. It can even draw from the vehicle's navigation data to anticipate corners, adjusting LEDs as you negotiate the bend. Brilliant. And other options? Well, let's start with the driving stuff. buyers of entry-level SE variants that lack the Audi Drive Select vehicle dynamic system I mentioned earlier can have that setup added in if they wish. If your A3 Cabriolet does have the Drive Select package, then there's the further option to increase its functionality by allowing the various settings to also alter suspension feel. That's if you pay extra for the Audi magnetic ride system. That's one feature that can't be ordered with the entry-level 1.6-litre diesel engine. Another is the progressive steering option that varies the steering ratio based on your speed, making high-speed cornering more direct and parking easier. Talking of parking, there's plenty of optional help for that too. Whether you want a rear-view camera, the Audi Parking System Plus setup that guides you with a visual display, or even the full Park Assist package that actively searches for spaces and can automatically steer you into them. What else? Well, on a base SE spec A3, you can of course pay extra to get the Mmi Navigation system, and it's worth doing that because once you have it, you can download and use a free Audi Mmi Connect app on your smartphone. Now, this allows you to do things like locate your car if you've forgotten where you parked it, plus you can plan a route on the app, upload it into your A3 Cabriolet, and then use the app to update yourself on traffic conditions throughout your journey. Other key options include front parking sensors, an advanced keyless entry and start system, privacy glass, power folding mirrors, and an auto-dimming rear view mirror. The steering wheel can be heated or ordered in sporty flat-bottomed form. And you might also want to look at upgrading the front seats with things like heating elements, electric adjustment, and four-way powered lumbar support. Choose an S3 or an S-Line variant, and you can even upgrade those front chairs to embossed sport or super sport status. And in terms of the aesthetics of your A3 Cabriolet, well, if budget allows, you can really go to town. You can specify interior inlays in micrometallic silver, matte brushed aluminium, or a carbon fibre-like optic 3D design finish. Plus, the seats can be trimmed in Milano leather, or in the case of the sports seats, with quilted Napa hide or a leather and Alcantara combination. The cabin will also look much classier at night if you specify the LED interior lighting pack. Outside, there's a huge choice of paint colours. We love this Vegas yellow, and a wide range of alloy wheel designs with rims that vary in size from 16 to 19 inches. If practical touches are a greater priority for you, there's a storage pack that gives you storage nets for the front seat backs, the boot and the front passenger footwell. There's a net you can spread across the cargo area to keep things in place, and a 12-volt socket for rear seat passengers. Another thing A3 Cabriolet models can now be ordered with is a folding tow bar that swivels out of the way when you don't need it. Safety-wise, the A3 Cabriolet gets an active rollover protection system with two spring-loaded plates recessed into the body to protect occupants in case of a rollover accident. Otherwise, all the usual 5-star Euro NCAP standard A3 safety features are in evidence, including twin front, side and head airbags, plus a knee bag for the driver, ISOFIX child seat fastenings, an active bonnet designed to reduce pedestrian injuries, and a tyre pressure warning light, plus ESP stability control and adaptive brake lights that flash during emergency stops to warn following motorists. There's also driver rest recommendation technology that assesses your driving style and shows a warning if it detects a decline in attentiveness, prompting you to stop for that restorative coffee. It does seem a little bit mean, though, to make A3 Cabriolet buyers have to pay extra for the hill hold assist feature that stops you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. It'd also be nice if the brand could include its clever Audi Pre-Sense Basic system that tightens the seat belts, closes the windows and activates the hazard warning lights if the electronics suggest that a crash impact is imminent. All the really sophisticated electronic safety features are on the options list, and here we'd particularly want to look at two key elements. The first is called Audi Side Assist, a system that stops you from pulling out to overtake when there's a vehicle in your blind spot. And it also includes a feature called Cross Traffic Assist Rear that alerts you to oncoming traffic when you're reversing out of a parking space. And secondly, there's adaptive cruise control that automatically keeps you a safe distance behind the car in front on the highway. And it uses the same radar sensors to work what the brand calls Pre-Sense Front. Now this scans the road ahead for potential accident hazards. If one's detected, then you'll be warned. If you don't respond, or perhaps you're unable to, then the system will automatically brake the car to decrease the severity of any resulting accident. Now, should a crash still happen, it's reassuring that the pre-sense front package also includes a welcome multi-collision brake assist feature that'll brake the car after you've hit something to decrease the otherwise very likely possibility that you'll go on to hit something or someone else. Now, rather than ordering the side assist and adaptive cruise control packages separately, you might choose to get them bundled up into one of the brand's optional driver assistance packs. Now, go for such a pack and you also get active lane assist to help you stay in lane and a traffic sign recognition feature that'll work if your car has been fitted out with navigation. Plus, Audi will also throw in the Parking System Plus and high beam assist features that I mentioned previously. On an S-tronic automatic A3, the driver assistance pack includes two further elements. A clever traffic jam assist feature that will allow the car to, well, effectively drive itself in heavy traffic at speeds of up to 37 miles an hour. And an emergency assist setup that works when the active lane assist and adaptive cruise control systems are active, monitoring your reactions. If the electronics sense no driver activity, let's say you were suddenly taken ill, for example, then if the warnings aren't responded to, the car will be held in lane and gradually, automatically, completely brought to a standstill. It's all very reassuring. In developing this second-generation A3 Cabriolet, Audi were able to shave over 60 kilos from the weight of its first-generation predecessor, mainly thanks to this model's sophisticated MQB platform and the relatively light weight of its hood mechanism. The convertible top weighs only 50 kilos. The opposition still hasn't caught up. A BMW 2 Series convertible weighs about 150 kilos more, while a Mercedes C-Class Cabriolet tips the scales at a massive 275 kilos more. Now that has to make quite a difference in terms of overall running costs, particularly when you add in all the other little Vorsprung durch Technik efficiency features that your dealer will be very happy to tell you about. These include a stop-start system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, when you're stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights, and a host of other little detail touches like brake energy recuperation, which recycles energy that you'd otherwise lose when you're braking or cruising. Then there's a climate control system that can be used in a highly economical eco mode. The efficiency setting you can choose on the Drive Select vehicle dynamic system, an efficiency program that you'll find on the onboard computer that gives you fuel saving tips, a gear shift indicator and a sleek drag coefficient of just 0.30 CD. The CO2 savings achieved as a result of all this will, Audi reckons, reduce a typical A3 Cabriolet's greenhouse gas emissions by about 2 metric tonnes over its lifetime. It's also worth pointing out that at the end of its life, over 95% of this car can be recycled. But let's get to the figures. These, of course, vary with spec and wheel size, but we'll quote here what can be achieved with the most efficient combination of factors. The most frugal variant, predictably, is the 1.6 TDI diesel model that manages 70.6 miles per gallon on the combined cycle, along with a CO2 return of 108 grams per kilometre. The pokier diesel derivative, the 150 PS 2-litre TDI, is only a little behind that, delivering 67.3 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 110 grams per kilometre of CO2. If that is the model you have in mind, then we suggest you don't sign on the dotted line before checking out the more affordable and very clever 150 PS 1.4-litre TFSI COD petrol model we're trying in this case. Here, high-tech cylinder-on-demand technology sees this 4-cylinder engine running on only 2 of its cylinders at low to mid-throttle speeds. Now, thanks to that, this variant manages a combined cycle figure within spitting distance of that of the 2-litre TDI, 58.9 miles per gallon and 110 grams per kilometre. And the petrol model gets even closer to the running cost returns of its diesel counterpart if you opt for S-tronic automatic transmission, thanks to its use of a more efficient 7-speed gearbox. The TDI gets an older, dirtier 6-speed unit. As a result, the 1.4-litre TFSI COD S-tronic variant returns 57.6 miles per gallon and 114 grams per kilometre, while a 2-litre TDI S-tronic delivers 61.4 miles per gallon and a smokier 120 grams per kilometre of CO2. So, do you really still want that diesel? If efficient high performance is your priority, then it's worth shifting your attention towards the top of the A3 Cabriolet petrol range, where a freshly developed 190 PS 2-litre TFSI engine replaces the previous 1.8-litre TFSI unit and promises impressive speed with eminent sensibility. It makes this particular A3 Cabrio significantly more frugal than other comparably powerful contenders in the segment, using clever combustion technology to achieve 49.6 miles per gallon and 131 grams per kilometre, which really isn't bad for a 155 miles an hour Cabrio that's able to sprint to 62 miles an hour in under 7.5 seconds. The same engine, uprated to 310 PS and mated to Quattro four-wheel drive, can deliver up to 41.5 miles per gallon and 156 grams per kilometre in the rapid S3 variant that comes only with efficient S-tronic auto transmission. As a result of all this, overall running costs should be pretty low. According to independent specialist Cap Monitor, an A3 Cabriolet 2-litre TDI S-tronic variant in sport trim will cost 39.73 pence per mile to run. That is fractionally more than a rival BMW 218D convertible sport auto. As for residual values, well, Cap Monitor reckon that for mainstream variants, these will be class-leading, a fraction in front of BMW and far ahead of, say, those of a Volkswagen Beetle Cabriolet or a Vauxhall Cascadia. If you buy, say, an A3 Cabriolet 2-litre TDI now, and 3 years down the road, it should still be worth up to 42% of what you initially paid for it. That compares to 41% for a rival BMW 218D convertible sport auto. All of this, of course, assumes that you haven't got mad with options when initially specifying the car. Metallic paint, the triple-lined hood, the S-tronic automatic transmission, sat-nav and internet connectivity services are about the only extras that you'll see your money back on. Many buyers can take or leave leather trim on open-top cars, and bigger alloy wheels aren't to all buyers' tastes either on this class of car. So, bear all that in mind before being tempted to go mad on Audi's seductive online configurator. Further assistance in this regard is provided by a fixed price servicing plan that can cover you for between 3 and 5 years. In fact, this car can even book its own service appointments via an Audi Connect safety and service system. Now, as well as providing emergency calling and online roadside assistance, this feature can, at the appropriate time, send a service request direct to your local dealer. Now, on to the warranty. All cars in this class get 3 years of cover, but whereas BMW and Mercedes don't limit your mileage in that period, Audi rather meanly restricts you to 60,000 miles. Optional extra cost warranty packages can extend the cover to either 4 years and 75,000 miles or 5 years and 90,000 miles. Insurance groupings, well, they should be relatively affordable. In the petrol range, you're looking at Group 27E for this 1.4-litre TFSI, Group 36E for the 2-litre TFSI, and Group 37E for a 2-litre TFSI Quattro variant. If you're looking at a diesel, then you'll find the base 1.6 TDI rated at Group 21E, the 2-litre TDI 150 PS rated at Group 29E, the 2-litre TDI 150 PS Quattro rated at Group 28E, and the 2-litre TDI 184 PS Quattro rated at Group 32E. It's hard to think of any other car in Audi's recent history that's been improved so dramatically from one generation to the next as this Mark II model A3 Cabriolet. And the further embellishments we've covered here have made it a very complete product indeed. It drives well, it's reasonably practical, and thanks to the light weight of its MQB platform, it's class-leadingly efficient. What's more important though, most important in fact, is that the looks of this car give it something that the pre-2014 first generation predecessor never had. That want one factor. By any measure, it's a seriously handsome piece of styling. Of course, it's always possible to spoil things. Adding big wheels and firm suspension options that spoil the ride quality, doing without the excellent acoustic roof that makes this car so refined. loading the car up with pricey extras that won't pay for themselves come resale time. But all of these things are in your hands. Audi's job was to provide the market's most desirable compact convertible, and it's a task that's been completed with consummate skill. As for this improved version, well, it might look little different at first glance, but it'll feel different if you specify the clever virtual cockpit technology and get to grips with the enhanced media connectivity. We also think the introduction of the efficient yet powerful new 2-litre TFSI petrol engine is possibly even more significant. If your annual mileage is low, then you shouldn't automatically tick the box for a 2-litre TDI variant without first considering it. In summary then, provided you don't enter the purchasing process with unrealistic expectations that this model will be mainstream brand affordable or some kind of sports car, it's hard to see how you could be disappointed by what's on offer here. The A3 Cabriolet has matured. It's got a little more Vorsprung durch Technik, and the compact convertible class retains a very impressive benchmark.